हेलो एवरीवन, मैं सचिन सिरोही आज इस वीडियो में एडवांस सी प्लस प्लस के वो टॉप इंटरव्यू क्वेश्चन लेकर आया हूँ जो कि मैंने वो टॉप प्रोफेशनल्स के साथ डिस्कस किए। इस इंटरव्यू में मुझसे पहले 6 कैंडिडेट्स रिजेक्ट हो चुके थे जो कि इन क्वेश्चनों को क्वालिफाई नहीं कर पाए, क्योंकि ये जो पर्टिकुलर ट्रेनिंग थी, जो कंसल्टेंसी लेवल पे चीज़ों को डिफाइन करना था, वो ऑलरेडी इस फील्ड में काम कर रहे थे और उनका जो लेवल ऑफ एक्सपेक्टेशन था वो काफ़ी हाई था। सो इस पर्टिकुलर सब चीज़ों को डिलीवर करने के लिए 7वां मुझको चुना गया और ये कहा गया कि सर अब आपको ये चीज़ें संभालनी हैं और इस इंटरव्यू को बहुत सही तरीके से फेस करना, क्योंकि ऑलरेडी 6 कैंडिडेट को ये रिजेक्ट कर चुके हैं। सो मैंने सोचा कि चलिए अब इस चैलेंज को एक्सेप्ट करते हैं। एक पूरा प्रॉपर मैंने रोड मैप तैयार किया और पूरी डेडिकेशंस के साथ इस पर्टिकुलर इंटरव्यू को मैंने फेस किया विद टेक्निकल नॉलेज। मैं डायरेक्टली ही कम टू द पॉइंट पे आ गया और डायरेक्टली मैंने वो सब चीज़ें फेस करना स्टार्ट कर दिया। एट द लास्ट ऑफ इस वीडियो में काफ़ी ज़्यादा उन्होंने एप्रिसिएशन दी कि ऑल थिंग्स, सब कुछ ठीक से समझ में आ गया। सो मेरा इस वीडियो को बनाने का इंटेंशन ये है कि जो भी बच्चे इंटरव्यू को फेस करते हैं, सो उनके अंदर किस लेवल का कॉन्फिडेंस आना चाहिए और उनको चीज़ों को किस तरीके से एक्सप्लेन करना चाहिए। सो आज की इस वीडियो में मैं वो सब चीज़ें आपको बताने जा रहा हूँ और वो कौन कौन से क्वेश्चंस हैं, किस तरीके से पूछा गया है, देन हाउ टू रिप्लाई देम और उसका किस तरीके से हमें रिप्लाई करना है। तो चलिए आज की इस वीडियो में देखते हैं।
Yes.
I think the what is the early binding and the what is the late binding, and what is the actual benefit and what is the drawback in the early binding and what is the advantage of the late binding. Why we use the virtual
Okay.
functions. I have ready what is a virtual function in C++ and what is the early binding in this one. And after that I have discussed what is a pure virtual function.
Great.
Sachin sir,
Perfect.
apart
Yeah.
from this, do we will be also like doing all these things in practical?
Yeah, practical
I,
also.
I
Is it the practical thing which I explain in this manner, and the virtual constructor, destructor, virtual constructor, and after the what is the use of the virtual table, and all these things. When we complete all the related internal working of the virtual tables, and it is a diagram basically which I have ready to describe what is the use of the virtual tables and what is the use of the virtual pointer and why we use the virtual basically virtual functions in this one. So in the basically I define here the internal working here, and what is the drawback in the previous one, the dynamic binding and the virtual table. Actually I have created a class name is window. The similar I have defined the access specifier protected only the particular variable, that means it can be accessed into the inherited class. And secondly I have created the constructor to initialize this particular member variable, and again I have create a virtual function. In previous class I have discussed like the virtual pointer. So whenever we declare at least one virtual function in our class, so the compiler automatically create a virtual pointer. And if we create one and more virtual functions, so the compiler create a static memory or a static table to hold all the virtual functions address, that is called as a virtual table. So now I have created a particular virtual function and as well as a pure virtual function. That means a virtual function is a function that I have defined the body. It depends on me. But if we define here the pure virtual functions, so inside the pure virtual functions, we are not define the body here. So we want to define this particular body into the inherited class. So the similar class I have inherit into the next class. The class name is border. So what is the difference between and what is the advantage if I have defined the particular functions and the virtual functions? So like if a particular functions the same name defined into the parent class and the same function defined into the child class if the function is not a virtual. So when we create the object of the drive class, so it will automatically call the upper one. But if we are talking about the virtual functions, so it will access the latest one which I have defined, which I have override into the drive class. So the similar thing again I have defined here the border. So border is a just a constructor to initialize same thing, base data and the same. I have the same variable, but I don't declare here. I just want to print out them. And similar, I just define the disp. And what is the disp? It is a virtual function. Inside the virtual function, I have also given the window functions, but I want to redefine again. Now and again the display too, I have again override this particular function. So these functions already available into the base class, and I redefine this particular function display2 into the inherited class. So now I just only redefine. Now actual thing I will discuss when we create the object of the particular things. Now the secondly, I create the third class menu, and you can create so many 3, 4, 5 as per your requirement. And inside this one, I have again only defined the constructor menu and so many for the complex program. So I have defined the 4 classes, and the fourth one is a border menu. The similar thing, the show function is not part of anyone. You can see it is not the virtual function, it is a function of the border menu class. Now the question is that I want to create the object of the last one, the latest class, so the border menu. So I have created the object of the border one and the one pointer. And we know very well the normal, if we are talking about the virtual pointer, depend on the pointers. And it is just I'm talking about the early binding and the late binding. So that is the reason the virtual function depend on the object. So it will bind the at the runtime, not the compile time. So if I want to call the object show, so object show this one, so it will give the output obviously. But if I want to call the disp, obj disp, so what is the obj disp? So it will call this one or it will call this one. Anybody can give the answer. It will call this one or it will call this one. Yeah. Like whenever we call the particular, we create the object of the latest class, that is an inherited class. And this particular same functions is also available into the base class and also available into the drive class.
Yeah.
I'm calling the particular display function. So which one function call?
The derived class.
Very good. But if it is a normal function, so the picture will be changed. Like the again I have called the display, and I just want to comment all these things. So it give the output like border display. So I want to check here. So it give the output border display, not this one. So that is the reason. So we are calling the virtual functions behalf of the object. Now the second one. Again the display to the similar, obviously the give the output. Now these things are important. Now I store the address of this particular object into the pointer. And again, I want to call the display. Firstly, I want to call only the display. So what is the output of the display to? Disk2, that means pure virtual functions. So it gives the output pure virtual function. So we know very well. But now the question is that I store the particular object address into the pointer. So it is a pointer. Now I want to call again the display. So it gives the same thing. So now class, I hope in the previous one I have discussed the difference between normal things and the difference between the virtual functions. So the virtual function basically bind to the object at a runtime, so it depend on the object, and the normal basically the things depend on the pointer. So any more questions like which you want to ask me, because in a short period of time I have just discussed only these things, but and we have the lots of example like the dynamic binding also we have. If I'm talking about the
So
dynamic.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
here, to show dynamic binding, you've used the pointer of a base class to point to a derived class object, right?
You're right.
So in what scenario would we use the base class pointer to point to a derived class object? Why not just use the derived class pointer?
Yeah,
Can you give an example?
Yeah, like whenever we the particular like the projects or the functionalities already move on, so we want to add the add some latest functionality by to the inherited class. But when we create the object of the inherited class, so the particular the base functionality will be calling, but we want to call only the drive class functionality. Like take an example of the car, like take an example of the healthcare, the retail, whatever in the area of the field of the domain, basically the requirement of this one. So we want to call only the latest functionality of the drive class. So these particular things basically I want to call, those things are depend on the runtime, not the compile time. So in that scenario, the virtual function is more useful.
Okay.
Any more question?
Not on this topic, thank you. That was well answered, thanks.
So absolutely.
And one question, do you have like expertise in trying to basically explain how do we create release projects and DLLs and how to link with them, that kind of aspects, basically the Visual Studio IDE?
Yeah, actually I want to compare them, like the similar in the C, like we have a static memory in an array. So suddenly we think like the static memory is not useful, so it will launch the the malloc and the calloc, the dynamic memory basically, like the linked list, how we can create the links and to generate the nodes and again. So in the dynamically so C is not sufficient for the oops basically. So now we choose the C++. So inside the C++, the concept will be clear, like the oops we know very well, like what is the encapsulation and abstraction, inheritance, and the method overriding, perfect, and the basic things like all these things. But in some cases, like we are developing the projects, so inside we have numbers of the classes, and we are inherited them, and we are create the consolidated class to share all this functionality. On that situation, the problem will be arise. So in this situation, this virtual functions and the compile time and the internal process should be clear. I think it's my opinion, and as per it, you can also give me some reason. And I gave my best to explain all these things. I hope you will understand. And
how do my question is slightly different. Like you have, I get an echo. Do you have, if I want to create a project or a DLL, on how to link them, those kind of things, will you be able to give some insights for us?
Right now,
basically it's like using, not right now, but generally if you prepare.
Yeah, actually the DLL library we can also combine them, but not a problem, not a issue. So we can already, but right now I just ready only the 3 things and some basic thing you do not want to like discuss all the OOPS concept, something like that. So I have covered all the existing, but not the DLL.
No, that's fine. I think what Vijay is talking about is, in the future, if we were to proceed,
Yeah.
there are certain topics that we are looking for. So along with C++, we are also looking at, how to use Visual Studio to build a project, create a release or a debug version, and then how to create a dynamically linked library and how to connect them and things like that. So we were wondering if you had experience and if you would be able to incorporate into the course itself.
Definitely. I will also share the like those kind of the practical during these all sessions, and you can embed like any development area also. Like I have a sound knowledge regarding some other technology also, so not a problem for me.
How about any multi-threading options? Do you have any experience? It's okay if you don't have any insights into that, but just want to know like multi-threading and
good questions. Actually, whenever we want to process certain operations, so like take an example of the CPU scheduling. So we are just suddenly in a company like the 5 employee give the commands. So we want to like the handle this process to give the priority basically. So we want to process the first, like the queue, first in first out, or as per like the last in first out. So we want to like process all these things on behalf of the query priority. So that is the things like the sleep and the multi-threadings and the single threading and serializations. That is also part of this one.
okay. And I'm just asking, because I want to know what is your. It's perfectly understandable if you are. We are not asking to tell it now, but in general, for example, do you have any like how to parallelize a code, how to optimize or profile a code, and give more insights? For example, let's say people write some algorithm, right? We want to basically profile a section of a code and say, okay, this is taking this much. Would you be able to provide some information on how to profile a section of a part of a code or a project, and how to optimize the code, those kind of things?
Perfectly. So those kind of the things like the testing level and the threading level and the DLL level, so it is not a problem for me. So actually I also like working on the NodeJS also, and the JavaScript levels, the like the NodeJS, the Angular and the MongoDB. So you can also embed that kind of things, and the C++ also I am some knowledge regarding this one. Perfect.
Okay.
So any more question? I hope I give my best to all these things in a short period of time.
Yeah, it was very good. Actually, the example that we provided was pretty, it helped us understand it in a better way.
Thank you.
So we will discuss, and then certainly we will get back to you as soon as possible through Niaz. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.